The 10th anniversary edition of My Superhero Novel Sidekick is now on Kickstarter. To back it, go to tinyurl.com/sidekick10. Support for this episode is also provided by my patrons on Patreon. Patrons get exclusive early access and by financial support from viewers like you. Thank you. The earliest portrayals of African Americans on television were much like their portrayals on film and radio, bordering from offensive to openly racist.
There you is, son. I'll take a gander at that.
Yeah, that'd make a nice rug, all right.
A rug? Andy, I'll have you to know that this is the latest in the wearing apparel. Just take a look at the beauty and the warmth of the thing.
Yeah.
Andy, would you be interested in that?
Let's see. No, Kingfisher, I just think I'll stick to my old top coat.
Oh, no.
Why didn't you choke the motor?
Choke it? If I could have reached it, I'd have broke every bone in this body. It's spoiled, but don't blame me. It was prepared by a field hand, not a cook.
By 1965, enough progress had been made that Bill Cosby could play a secret agent alongside Robert Culp in I Spy, which led to him becoming the first African-American to have a successful show named after him. Around the same time, Diane Carroll became the first African-American actress to play a non-stereotypical lead role as a nurse in Julia.
Well, you being interviewed?
Yes,
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a registered nurse.
You're not going to register with Mr. Colton, maybe?
Nichelle Nichols proved that black women could be on equal footing with white men, or at least they could be in the future, on Star Trek.
Excuse me, Captain Kirk.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scott.
What a charming negress. Oh, forgive me, my dear. I know that in my time some use that term as a description of property.
But why should I object to that term, sir? You see, in our century, we've learned not to fear words.
And Matt Robinson and Loretta Long portrayed TV's first professional black couple as Teacher Gordon and Nurse Susan on Sesame Street. By the 1980s, Bill Cosby would once again break ground with a show about an upper-middle-class black family, which went on to spend 5 seasons as the top-rated show on television. And then, in 1998, all that progress briefly came crashing down. This is the story of one of the most offensive television shows in American history, and about American history.
Welcome to the first night of the first network for the next century, UPN.
When UPN launched in January of 1995, its main target audience was men from 25 to 54, anchored by Star Trek Voyager. However, when its male-centric shows other than Star Trek failed and R&B singer Brandy's sitcom Moesha became one of only 3 shows to survive that rocky first season for the netlet, executives pivoted and the netlet started actively courting minority audiences, a strategy that for the most part proved successful. Fast forward 2 years. UPN had gone from programming 1 night a week to 3, and plans were underway to expand that lineup again with the 1998 to 99 season by adding Thursday and Friday nights to their schedule. This, when added to UPN's usual attrition rate from cancellations, meant a lot of new programming was needed. And with Malcolm and Eddie already a hit by UPN standards, at least, on Monday night, the idea arose of another black-led sitcom to pair with it. The decision was also made to produce the show in-house at Paramount Television rather than from another production company. So the job of creating the show fell to two people under contract to Paramount. Barry Finaro and Mort Nathan had been writers and producers on The Golden Girls for its first 3 seasons, chalking up a number of Emmy wins. They then went on to form their own company with 2 other Golden Girls alumni in 1989 and signed a deal with Disney's Touchstone Television, where they created such... okay, never mind. Still, their work on Golden Girls had been remarkable enough for Paramount Television to take a chance on them, signing Nathan and Finaro to a deal in 1992. They would eventually be tasked with creating the first non-Star Trek show to debut on UPN, which is another story. The next stop was the big screen, when the directing team, the Farrelly brothers, tapped them to write the screenplay for their next big... are we sensing a pattern here? UPN's big expansion in 1998 offered the team one last chance at proving their worth as show creators, and for their next sitcom, they wanted to do a satire based on the Clinton White House, with its oversexed president, overbearing first lady, and young and unqualified staff. And the parallel they decided to use to mock the Clintons? The most natural choice... just kidding. They went for Abraham Lincoln. Ken Burns' 1990 documentary maxi series for PBS had rekindled people's interest in the Civil War. So much so that when it was rerun 4 years later, it got more viewers than it had the first time around. Its release on video cassette was PBS's biggest moneymaker for the home video market for years. And its impact on American documentary filmmaking cannot be underestimated, because it showed that any idiot with narration and background music could just pan and zoom on still but I digress. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, actor Shia McBride had risen to prominence through an appearance on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and the TV movie Revenge of the Nerds 3: The Next Generation, before becoming a regular cast member on The John Larroquette Show from 1993 to 1996. Impressed with McBride's ability to perform both comedic and dramatic roles, Nathan and Finaro offered him the lead in their new show. McBride would play a British nobleman forced to leave the United Kingdom over gambling debts, who finds himself employed as President Lincoln's valet. As a throwback to Ken Burns' documentary, the story would be told through diary entries, which would form the framing device for each episode. And thus was born The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer. Yeah, because the director of the pilot had no idea that the P in Pfeiffer was supposed to be silent and forced all the actors to pronounce it, the creators ended up having to go out of their way to pretend that this slip-up was intentional. Well, either that or they actually thought that pronouncing the P in Pfeiffer was funny. I choose to give them the benefit of the doubt. Anyhow, the pilot episode would introduce the characters, establish the story, and downplay the parallels to the Clintons. It also, unfortunately, included jokes about slavery and Pfeiffer referring to a white staff member as Massa. You can see where this is going, right? The NAACP started a pressure campaign to have their show canceled before it could air, going so far as to picket Paramount Studios on September 24th. Even the LA city government got into the fight, saying that the pilot should not air. In response, UPN announced that the pilot wouldn't air. Instead, they would start off with episode 2. Since the pilot episode wouldn't be able to set up the scene, the creators added an introduction, also inspired by Burns' documentary, which just barely touched on how the characters found themselves where they were.
The Civil War defined America, both the good and the bad. It was the crossroads of our being, and it was a hell of a crossroads. Who would have thought there was a comedy in all that? Well, we did. We were fortunate to acquire an extraordinary historical document. The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer, the P isn't silent, chronicles the life and times of a member of President Lincoln's staff at the height of the Civil War. Pfeiffer, an English nobleman, claimed that he and his trusted manservant were forced by rival noblemen to flee to America due to a dispute over the Queen. All 5 of them. The rest, as they say, is history. Everything that follows actually happened. You can't prove that it didn't.
The new premiere episode was called AOL, Abe Online.
What's that tapping sound, sir?
It's the telegraph inside the president's office. My loins ache with desire for you.
Well, I'm flattered, my lord. But I'm your servant, not your boy toy.
Shut up, Niblet. I wasn't talking to you.
Somebody's mad because he didn't get what he wanted.
Niblet! Someone is using the president's office to send obscene telegrams. Mr. President? I wasn't doing anything. Should we just leave your breakfast? Yes, that will be fine. My body trembles at the thought of your touch.
Hey, you keep this up and I'll have a case for harassment.
Enjoy. What do you mean by that? Your sausage. What do you mean by that? Yes,
and substituted the subtle parallels with the Clinton administration with...
Yes, sir. I used to relax by chopping wood. You know, Mr. President, you don't have to explain. This isn't a grand jury. I can no longer be a party to this. This is the Oval Office. You're the leader of this country. And if I may be so bold, sir, you're acting no better than a horny hillbilly from Arkansas.
Really, in the end, the biggest sin of The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer wasn't the subtle racism or the offensiveness of the portrayals of revered historical figures. It's that it was, well, stupid. The jokes were stupid.
Introducing His Highness Constantine, the King of Greece, and... Well, so far, you're the only one here who showed up with a queen.
The characters were stupid.
This came for you. It's new. Should get you from here to Salem in half the time.
Are you forgetting who you're talking to, Pfeiffer?
No, of course not. He says your name all the time. You're, the bitch. I'm sorry. Lesbian bitch.
The concept itself, beyond stupid. The New York Times review by Karen James said it best, calling the show jaw-droppingly witless. The reviews and the protests scared away enough viewers that when The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer debuted on October 5th, it ranked 116 out of 125 shows that week. So, how did UPN handle this disastrous showing? They pretended it was actually a hit.
Gazillions of people watched the premiere of Desmond Pfeiffer.
It's a lot of people.
Hear, hear. And this week, gazillions more will gasp, choke, and gag when they see Abe Lincoln in drag.
This lady has no other recourse but to give you a little slap.
Entertainment Weekly calls it must-see to believe TV.
Hi.
They must know me from the penny.
The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer, followed by an all-new Malcolm and Eddie, Monday on UPN.
But that denial was just the first step in the show's downward slide into a Kubler-Ross maelstrom. Next, there was anger, with UPN boss Dean Valentine calling the people protesting the show shameful. Then UPN bargained, promising it would take a closer look at upcoming episodes and the original pilot before anything else aired. But the protests and negative reviews increased even faster than the ratings could fall. So depressed, UPN decided on October 24th to pull the show off its schedule, supposedly for retooling, promising that it would be back later in the season. But because that decision was made late on a weekend, one more episode managed to air on Monday.
Who can sleep with all this racket? The thunder is crashing, the hissing, the screeching, the howling.
I'm just bowling, and we're in the basement.
I'm talking about the noises inside my head.
And that was that. Acceptance came the next day when the decision was made to just put the show out of its misery. 5 of the 9 episodes completed, including the original pilot, would never air and have not been seen anywhere to this day. Shy McBride managed to rebound from the disaster which was The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer, going on to chalk up an extensive list of credits on both the big and small screen. The show's creators weren't as lucky. The show's failure marked the end of Finaro and Nathan's deal with Paramount Television, as well as the end of their production company. Both of them had successful careers writing for and producing films, but for the most part, their television careers proved to just be the last 2 casualties of the Civil War.